Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth,
And we're doing it on Getter
Every single day. So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.
There it is, 4 o'clock on Broad and Wall Street. Ring the bell, lady. There it is. Hit that bell. Bing, bing, bang. There you go. And quiet market today, guys. Pretty quiet markets. Very quickly, Dow down a touch. 105 on my screen. We have 112 there. We'll wait for it to settle. It's still settling. S&P down a little. NASDAQ down a little bit. Gold, strong day, up $63. Oil retreating a little bit. But for those who watch, and we've been talking about it a lot, crypto, 106,008, almost 107,000. We are approaching an all-time high in Bitcoin, folks. All-time high, just about to be touched. All right, think about it. Every dollar you spend is either supporting your values or working against them. In today's economy, where you spend your money matters. That's how we take back our country. Patriot Mobile, leading the way, folks, is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. Switch today without sacrificing quality or service. You'll get exceptional nationwide coverage because, unlike most budget wireless providers, Patriot Mobile has access to all 3 of the major U.S. wireless networks. You can even add 2 numbers on 2 networks on one single phone, something the big guys can't even do. Stay connected with flexible, unlimited data plans to fit your lifestyle. These plans offer high-speed data, mobile hotspots, international roaming, device protection, and even internet backup. Here's the best part. When you switch to Patriot Mobile, you're supporting faith, family, and freedom. If you believe in our First and Second Amendment rights or the sanctity of life and supporting our veterans, this is where you belong. Switching is simple. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Patriot Mobile's 100% U.S.-based team will get you activated in minutes. Right now, go to patriotmobile.com/RAV, R-A-V, or call 972-PATRIOT, P-A-T-R-I-O-T, to get a free month of service with promo code RAV. Make the switch, defend freedom with every call and text you make. That's patriotmobile.com/RAV, or call 972-PATRIOT. All right, let's bring in my first guest, the member of the House Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees, Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee, from the great state of Tennessee. He joins us. Thanks for being here, Mr. Congressman. Appreciate your time. I know you got some things to vote on. Let's talk about the big, beautiful bill you'd like to talk about. It passed out of committee during a Sunday night vote. Trump addressed the full caucus of Republican Congress today about the big, beautiful bill. Sir, I watched this gaggle that Trump did afterwards. He was in the hallway. He was asking a lot of tough questions. And someone said, one person from the inside said they don't have the votes. Trump was very surprised about that. The question is, I think we all have been hearing there's anywhere between 4 and 7 Republicans that will, as of right now, not vote yes or will vote present, which would be a problem. How does he get this bill across the finish line, or at least to the full vote?
Individual attention to these folks. That generally is what happens. I still, too, remain undecided. I'm not violently opposed to it. I just had some questions about some of the numbers, some of the Medicaid numbers, and, of course, the SALT tax.
All right, folks, we got to bust out of that interview real quick because Donald Trump, the president, here's the president speaking from the Oval.
Technology, but it's something we're going to have. We're going to have it at the highest level. I want to thank Secretary Hegseth, who's been fantastic, and Secretary Rubio and Space Force Vice Chief of Space Operations, General Mike Gutlein. I also want to recognize Senators Dan Sullivan, Kevin Cramer, and Jim Banks, fantastic senators, great talents, great political talents, and people that love our country. In the campaign, I promised the American people that I would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect our homeland from the threat of foreign missile attack. And that's what we're doing. Today I'm pleased to announce that we have officially selected an architecture for this state-of-the-art system that will deploy next-generation technologies across the land, sea, and space, including space-based sensors and interceptors. And Canada has called us and they want to be a part of it. So we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. It's designed for the Golden Dome. Will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space. And we will have the best system ever built. As you know, we helped Israel with theirs and it was very successful, and now we have technology that's even far advanced from that, but including hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, and advanced cruise missiles. All of them will be knocked out of the air. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air. I'm also pleased to report that the One Big Beautiful Bill will include $25 billion for the Golden Dome to help construction get underway. That's the initial sort of a down deposit. And we have probably, you're talking about, General, we're talking about $175 billion total cost of this when it's completed. This afternoon, I'm also announcing that I will appoint, very importantly, General Gutlein to lead the ambitious new effort as the direct reporting program manager for the Golden Dome. Very talented man, and I'm very honored to have been the one that helped to have really created Space Force. Space Force has turned out to be a tremendous success. We were third in space, and now we're number one in space by a lot. It's not even close. And Mike is a 4-star Space Force general, the recipient of the Defense Distinguished Service Medal, one of the most respected people in the world having to do with defense. You know, we have offense and we have defense. I'll bet he's good at offense. And he has an unmatched background in missile warning technology and defense procurement. General Gutlein also knows that we need to move fast. No one is more qualified for his job, and everybody, this was a universal acceptance of General Gutlein. Everybody that knows him and knows everybody else, they said there's only one man for the job, so I have a feeling we have the right guy. But now I'd like to invite Secretary Hegseth and the General to please say a few words and describe the system a little bit. And we appreciate you being here. And the press has really been very fair over the last period of a couple of months. I don't know what happened to you. It was so much more exciting the other way. But you've been very, very fair. We have very high poll numbers, the highest we've ever had. And I think we're doing a great job. We had a tremendous trip to the Middle East, as you know. It was a really amazing trip. And now I came home, and this is the one I was really looking forward to this day, because this is very important for the success and even survival of our country. It's a pretty evil world out there, so this is something that goes a long way toward the survival of this great country. And as I said, we'll be discussing Canada. They want to hook in and they want to see if they can be a part of it. That sort of makes sense. I guess that's what I was talking about from day one. You know, it just automatically makes sense, and it won't be very difficult to do, but they'll pay their fair share. Thank you very much, everybody. And Pete, go ahead.
Sure. Well, Mr. President, add this to the long and growing list of promises made and promises kept. Ultimately, this right here, the Golden Dome for America, is a game changer. It's a generational investment in the security of America and Americans. Mr. President, you said we're going to secure our southern border and get 100% operational control after the previous administration allowed an invasion of people into our country. President Reagan 40 years ago cast the vision for it. The technology wasn't there. Now it is, and you're following through to say we will protect the homeland from cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, drones, whether they're conventional or nuclear. And it's not lost on me, sir, also that you had the vision to start the Space Force. And here we are, when the others said we didn't need it, Here we are in the Oval Office with one of the leaders of the Space Force in General Gutlein, leading the charge on putting in place a game-changing Golden Dome for America. So, sir, it's an honor to be a part of this bold initiative. We're going to get to work on it. We have been since you signed that executive order on January 27th. We've been fast forward on this. We're here on this day, and this is just one stop in delivering this defense of the homeland, which is something you've charged us with doing, and we'll keep going until it is complete, sir.
Thank you, Pete. Pete's doing a great job, by the way. Thank you very much. General, please.
Mr. President, today is a great day for the nation as we double down on protection of the homeland. As you're aware, our adversaries have become very capable and very intent on holding the homeland at risk. While we have been focused on keeping the peace overseas, our adversaries have been quickly modernizing their nuclear forces, building out ballistic missiles capable of hosting multiple warheads, building out hypersonic missiles capable of attacking the United States within an hour and traveling at 6,000 miles an hour, building cruise missiles that can navigate around our radar and our defenses, and building submarines that can sneak up on our shores, and worse yet, building space weapons. It is time that we change that equation and start doubling down on the protection of the homeland. Golden Dome is a bold and aggressive approach to hurry up and protect the homeland from our adversaries. We owe it to our children and our children's children to protect them and afford them a quality of life that we have all grown up enjoying. Golden Dome will afford that. I greatly appreciate your trust in me and your nomination in me and your trust in the team to deliver this. It is a great day for America.
And also, very importantly, it's we're the only ones that have this. We call it super technology. Nobody else has it. And nobody else has really near what we have. So this is a very exciting project. This is something that will, the general said close to 100% protection, so that's something we need. I think it's a very, and everything's going to be made in the USA, by the way, very importantly. So it's something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. And I just noticed you two, Jim, you're standing there, and behind you is a very important document, Declaration of Independence. And that was in the vault for many decades right under this area. They had vaults with pictures on top of Abraham Lincoln. You see, that was the original Abraham Lincoln, the original Washington. And does everybody know who the middle was? General Grant. And so it's very exciting. You look over here, and above Ronald Reagan, you have Thomas Jefferson. That's Monroe from the Monroe document. And you know who that is, right? Andrew Jackson. So we have a lot of very exciting pictures, and on the other side, likewise, some great presidents and great people. And many of these pictures people were asking about, and many of them, almost all of them, were in the vaults or nearby, but generally in the vaults downstairs. Well, we have some great. So it's very exciting, and the place has become a little different than you first saw it, Jim, right?
Yes, much better.
A little bit different, and slightly better. But to think we had them, and some were in the vaults for over 100 years. So it's pretty cool stuff. Everybody knows Jim Banks. He's a great congressman, and now he's a great senator from Indiana. And you might want to say a few words.
Well, your legacy with Space Force, Mr. President, is already big, but the Golden Dome is going to be an even bigger legacy for our country. And Indiana is going to help you make it. Right. The space satellites that are made at Fort Wayne, Indiana by L3 Harris, all the work done at Crane Navy Base in southern Indiana is going to be a big part of it. And Hoosiers are very proud of that. We're proud of you. Thank you very much.
It'll be a big factor. Thank you, and good luck, and congratulations. You won that race by a lot. That wasn't even a contest, right?
Well, thanks to you and all of your support.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Please go ahead. You missed that. This is Senator Kramer, and he's one of our best. Can't get any better. Go ahead.
Well, you're very nice, Mr. President, and thanks for this. And I remember the day in your first term when you called, and I was a brand new baby freshman senator on the Armed Services Committee, and you said, I want to have a Space Force. Would you lead the effort on the Senate Armed Services Committee? And I felt so proud thinking that you chose me, only to find out later no one else would do it. But nonetheless, it worked out really, really, really well because North Dakota has some great space assets and that contribute to that and to Golden Dome. No surprise that you would be the president that would come along and put the homeland first. And this is just one more example of that. So thanks for this and for allowing me this afternoon. By the way, let me just add my strong endorsement of General Guthlein's role in leading this. I don't know anybody better, for sure, better equipped to do it than he is.
Everybody said that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Dan Sullivan, Alaska Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your continued leadership on missile defense. We were talking earlier how in 2019 at the Pentagon, you laid out a speech about the Missile Defense Review that had all these principles on missile defense that you articulated then during your first term. And now the Golden Dome is all of that. So you're continuing to lead. We really appreciate it. The Congress is stepping up, as you mentioned right now in the budget reconciliation bill, $25 billion for the Golden Dome. And what Senator Kramer and Senator Banks and I and many others, we're working on and I briefed you on this before, sir, on our Golden Dome Act, which we think will have, in terms of legislation that can help cement what you're doing right here, getting the Congress behind it, not just with the funding, but with authorization. So we're working closely with Secretary Hegseth, General Gutlein, and the whole team. So we're very honored to be here, sir. And, Alaska is the cornerstone of missile defense right now in terms of ground-based missile interceptors, in terms of radar systems and track incoming missiles. So my state is honored to continue to play a critical role in all of this and build on it. And we're really excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dan. Great. Any questions?
Mr. President, you had mentioned at the beginning of your remarks that this was a campaign promise of yours. Have military commanders asked for this system specifically? Because NORAD had said previously that the current system was adequate. So what does this get the United States
Somebody said
isn't
the current
already
system is
in
adequate.
before?
There really is no current system. We have certain areas of missiles and certain missile defense, but there's no system. We just have some very capable weapons that hopefully we never have to use, but we have some very capable weapons. No, this is a different league. There's never been anything like this. This is something that's going to be very protective. I think you can rest assured there'll be nothing like this. Nobody else is capable of building it either.
Was it something that military commanders asked you for? Did they ask you to do this?
Well, let me put it differently. I suggested it, and they all said, "We love the idea, sir." It's the way it's got to be, right? But they want it, and they wanted it badly once it was suggested. I don't know if they ever thought they would be lucky enough to have it, but we were able to get it done, and we have all the funding, so pretty much tucked away. I think most people feel it's very important to have. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. When you first announced this idea, critics said it would be prohibitively expensive, potentially ineffective, and could trigger an arms race in space. What do you say to those critics about that?
Well, they're wrong. It's about as close to perfect as you can have in terms of real production. I told you Canada wants to be a part of it, which be, fairly small expansion. But we'll work with them on pricing. We'll be dealing with them on pricing. They know about it very much. They've asked to be a part of it, actually. They've asked us to be a part of it. I think it's something that is great. If you can afford to do it, we can afford to do it. We took in $5.1 trillion in the last 4 days in the Middle East. And when you think about it, this is a tiny fraction of that. But we make it all here. We're going to make it all here. We have, when I will tell you, an adversary told me, a very big adversary told me the most brilliant people in the world are Silicon Valley, said we cannot duplicate them. We can't. This was somebody that I won't tell you who it is, but you'd be amazed. We have the most brilliant minds in the world doing this kind of thing, the equipment, the space, the computers, everything. But I said that we just can't duplicate what you have there in Silicon Valley. We never have been able to. And there's a very strong group of people and very strong minds, but they can't. So we have things that nobody else can have. You see what we've done helping Israel with that. You probably wouldn't have an Israel. They launched probably 500 missiles altogether, and I think 1/2 of a missile got through, and that was only falling to the ground as scrap metal. It's pretty amazing, and this is in terms of technology far advanced from that system.
Just one follow-up on the adversaries. Have you addressed Russia's ventures in space with a space-based nuclear weapon and told Putin to stop in your conversations with him?
We haven't discussed it, but at the right time we will.
Mr. President, with the goal of keeping Americans safe with this, can you talk about the timeline? How long will this take to complete?
We think it's going to be about a little bit less than 3 years, and we'll have a big phase-in very early. We're starting immediately with $25 billion. It'll cost about $175 billion completed, but we think in 2.5 to 3 years.
Are you confident that you can get the funding needed from Congress quickly?
Yeah. It's amazing how easy this one is to fund. You know, some funding is tough and some is easy. When we say we're going to save everyone's lives in a crazy world, it seems to be very easy to get. Yeah, we've already spoken to everybody we have to speak to. Everybody's in, I would say, Dan, everybody's in line here, right?
Yes, sir. $25 billion is a down payment in the budget reconciliation bill right now.
Yeah, so I think
people
actually love it.
Mr. President, on Russia, are you worried about the reports on a military buildup along the borders towards Finland and Norway?
No, I don't worry about that at all. They're going to be very safe. Those are two countries that are going to be very safe.
And the secondly, sir, if I may, Volodymyr Zelensky is saying today that he's hoping for you to impose new sanctions on Russia. Are you considering that?
Well, that's going to be my determination. That's going to be nobody else's determination. We'll see how Russia behaves. We see what's going to happen. You know, we have a pretty critical time right now. I had a talk yesterday for 2.5 hours with President Putin, as you know. I also spoke to all of the European, or to many of them, leaders, but they were representing the whole. And I think we had very good conversations yesterday. Please.
Thanks, Mr. President. What companies have asked to be involved in building this system, and have you decided on who will be building it?
Yeah, I think I'll let you answer that. You can mention some of yours from Alaska's involved, and Alaska is a big part of it because locationally they're sort of perfect. I think that's your first line of defense in certain instances, and Kevin will tell you that his state's involved. But honestly, Georgia's going to be very big. Florida's going to be very big. They're all going to be very big. Jim, do you want to talk about Indiana?
Yeah, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I live, we make all the space satellites at L3 Harris. Across the board, we're the top manufacturing state in the country. By the way, the tariffs have been very good for auto manufacturing.
They've been so good.
But this is going to be really good for the defense industry in my state. And there's so much money involved here. There are going to be a lot of American companies involved in making the Golden Dome.
You might also say, you're talking about the tariffs, he has some of the biggest auto plants in the world moving into Indiana, only for one reason, maybe two reasons, November 5th and the tariffs, okay?
Yes, sir.
But the tariffs have driven tremendous business into this country. But you have one of the biggest in the world being built.
The Honda Civics,
right?
The new Honda Civic made in Indiana. GM's added jobs. Eli Lilly moving pharmaceutical manufacturing from China to the United States, $27 billion. You go on and on with good news in Indiana and across the country because of the tariffs.
Our country was cold as ice a year ago, and now we have the hottest country in the world. This is the hottest country in the world, nobody even close. If you look at even this last trip that I made, the respect that is paid to our country. We've went from being laughed at all over the world, and now we're the hottest country in the world by far. Dan, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I think when you look at the system that you've laid out, it's an idea in your executive order of a layered defense. So you have initial ground-based missile interceptors, which are made by some of the big defense companies, Lockheed, Martin, Raytheon. But the beauty of your vision, Mr. President, is that it's layered, it's open architecture, and it goes up into space. So this is going to be some of the new defense tech companies that are very interested in it and can bring missile defense at a cost that I don't think, you said it, Mr. President, is unimaginable in terms of how much lower the cost is. So it's all across the board in terms of companies. Senator Kramer and I just met with a bunch from last week that are interested in this. And you said it earlier, Mr. President, our technology sector is head and shoulders above any other place in the world, and they're going to be a key part of this, and I think that's why it makes it so exciting.
Mr. President, I think one of the things that's, and you alluded to this, the new autonomous space age defense ecosystem is more about Silicon Valley than it is about big metal, right? And so what's exciting about this is it makes it available to everybody to participate, to compete, big companies, mid-sized companies, small companies, but General Gutlein is the perfect person, again, to sort all that out because he understands how it has to work together ultimately.
And Pete, maybe we'll close with you. We have been discussing this for a long time. Peter and I used to discuss it when I was going to go on a show that he did very well and had tremendous ratings, but all he wanted to talk about was the military. He didn't want to talk about anything else. We used to talk about this. How about you closing it out?
Yes, sir. I mean, like I said, without your vision, willing to say and do things when other people wanted to look away and pretend like the threat didn't exist, or be focused on foreign adventurism, some other threat that we've been told is affecting us. When you looked at the data, sir, from Russia to the Communist Chinese and their capabilities, what they're trying to do to supersede us and threaten us, how do we find the best innovators, the best military leaders, the best companies, tech companies? You mentioned open architecture. That's exactly right. So multiple companies can pour into this, sir. It's a layered defense. So if you miss at one, you catch at the next. And it integrates existing technologies that can speak to each other. So it moves quickly while also investing in further ranging space-based interceptors. So our enemies, our adversaries are going to pay a lot of attention to this, just like they have to President Trump from day one. Sir, you're defending the homeland, defending the American people. It's going to benefit my kids, grandkids, all of ours in this room. So thank you for your leadership. We're going to try to do this as fast as we can.
Very good. Great job, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President.
No cuts.
Thank
No
you,
cuts to
everybody.
Medicare. No cuts to Medicare. Thank you.
But there it is, President Trump. Very quickly, the Golden Dome. He talked about his new Golden Dome. It's the space protection system, not unlike the dome system that we sell and give to Israel and other countries. Fantastic, great idea. Pete Hegseth doing a great job. He said, "You're doing a great job, Pete. Just want to let you know." We're going to go to break and we'll come. What is it with Trump with the 4 o'clock hour too? He really loves this hour. I think he loves us. Give us a whole bunch of ratings, folks. 2.5 minutes. We'll be right back. Look at that. Walling, Tennessee. I see what you did there, Mad Dog. I mispronounced it last time. But here's what we're going to do, folks. We're going to give you that interview in full with Congressman Tim Burchett, because he literally left to go to a vote, and there's going to be a big vote tonight, late night. So that interview is very relevant right now. Here it is in full. All right, let's bring in my first guest, the member of the House Foreign Affairs and Oversight Committees, Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee, from the great state of Tennessee. He joins us. Thanks for being here, Mr. Congressman. Appreciate your time. I know you got some things to vote on. Let's talk about the big, beautiful bill you'd like to talk about. It passed out of committee during a Sunday night vote. Trump addressed the full caucus of Republican Congress today about the big, beautiful bill. Sir, I watched this gaggle that Trump did afterwards. He was in the hallway. He was asking a lot of tough questions. And someone said, one person from the inside said they don't have the votes. Trump was very surprised about that. The question is, I think we all have been hearing there's anywhere between 4 and 7 Republicans that will, as of right now, not vote yes or will vote present, which would be a problem. How does he get this bill across the finish line, or at least to the full vote?
Individual attention to these folks. That generally is what happens. I still, too, remain undecided. I'm not violently opposed to it. I just had some questions about some of the numbers, some of the Medicaid numbers, and, of course, the SALT tax, so-called relief, which, in my opinion, is a tax on people like Tennessee and Florida who don't have an income tax, where SALT stands for state and local tax. And the president said he didn't want it in there, and I'm hoping to see that that's the case. And you say you've got up in New York, they want to build a museum, LGBTQ museum or something, I don't know. And the taxpayer, the local tax, has to pay for it, and then the locals can just write it off their income tax. And of course, the state of Tennessee doesn't have a state income tax, so we're going to have to fund these blue states run by Democrats over their mismanagement, and there's no encouragement to fix it because, well, federal government will step in and you just write it's just a wash. And so I'm concerned about that. And Medicaid, the president said don't touch it, but then he said kick the people off that are there illegally, the waste, abuse, and fraud, which is what the Republicans have been saying all along. But we've done we're terrible at messaging. You know, I always see some members of leadership, all they're concerned about is remaining in leadership. And whether we're in the majority or the minority, they're still going to get the entourage. And so I have some concerns.
So help me, walk me through this, Congressman, walk me through this, because I'm a fiscal conservative, as likely you are, especially when your own state has no state income tax. So by definition, you and Florida and the other non-income states will pick up a bit of the burden, not all, but a bit of the burden, because you can't write that percentage off of the things you don't like. So there's always going to be things in there. And I will tell you that a lot of people are against some of the LGBTQ initiatives, as far as, you know, feds won't pay for trans surgery, but they won't block them either, which a lot of people would love that to be in the bill. I would also. But how do you see, and here it is. So a 68% tax increase if the bill doesn't pass, because the Democrats Trump tax cuts will expire. So you have an increase in taxes.
Correct.
Plus you won't get that big, massive downdraft in drug prices. Trump talked about it today. He believes anywhere between 75 and 85% decrease in drug prices over time. Whereas if the Democrats get their way, don't get the bill passed, then those 75%, 85% increase decreases won't happen. You'll pay higher drug prices going forward. So you have a lot of good things in there and a couple of bad things. I'm one who believes that you have to lose a little bit to win, and this feels like you lose a little bit on the LGBTQ stuff and you win big.
Well, no, that's just if SALT. That's just SALT, and Trump said take the SALT stuff out. So on that end of it is he clears the field for that on me. It just, people in New York might not be happy about it, but they've walked around and told everybody how we wouldn't be in power if it wasn't for them. Well, they haven't been too big. They weren't real big Trump supporters. And I'll tell you, people in Florida and Tennessee and those other areas were big Trump supporters, as I was from the start. So I think you'll see a lot of those things change. But the thing you got to look at, of course, is, are we on a trajectory? And this is one of the first times that we've decreased the rate of growth. Now, growth is still happening, and the numbers are frighteningly high, and you're seeing us downgraded in the bonds and bond market and things like that. And so we got to pay attention to that. But the people in Tennessee would really be hurting if we do not make these. We do not continue. I wish they just make them permanent. I don't know why they have to put a 3-year or a 4-year safety hatch on them, and they got to come back to Congress, because all we're doing is looking for ways to spend money. If we just went back to pre-COVID spending levels, we could.
Is that realistic, Congressman? I've been doing this a long time, my friend. I've been doing this better part of 20-something years, following it prior to it, but doing it on television, analyzing it for 20 years.
Sure.
And I used to think, and I came out of the box being a real, almost like a textbook conservative. Oh, the debt is terrible for us. It's going to kill us. It's a the national security threat. And over the years, we've gone from 18 trillion, 20 trillion, 20, 40, 35, 38. We're going to hit 40 trillion in a couple of years. And it really hasn't affected anything national security-wise. So I'm almost, I kind of am in the camp where you go, okay, the world needs us. We're seeing this with the tariffs. So if you believe in the tariffs and that they're going to work, you might as well bring down our taxes so that the higher prices that tariffs are going to bring will actually be defrayed by lower taxes. And the stuff like the LGBTQ parades in New York is kind of small change. I agree with you that it shouldn't be biased towards the states that have income tax. That can be removed. But there's a lot of other vocal voices saying, well, this is going to add to the deficit as they promised not to. Your thoughts on negotiating it?
Yeah, there's got to be some happy medium, but the American public wants us, I think, overall to pay down our debt and to quit running up this stuff. Because every time Trump finds a savings, say with Doge or what have you, the war pimps at the Pentagon are going to spend it. Now, case in point. Now, look, my dad fought in the Pacific, United States Marine Corps. Fought, he was in the worst of it. Peleliu, Okinawa, went to China after the war and fought the communists. My mama flew an airplane during the Second World War. Her brother got killed. My wife is a widow, and the biological father of my child was a master chief on a Navy sub. I support our military. But when we're building aircraft carriers, and everybody's telling us aircraft carriers are out, because what do? You put on the deck of that thing $1 trillion worth of aircraft that one missile can take out. That's poor planning. And you put an aircraft in the air, and they put 300 drones that cost them $3,000 a piece. The math doesn't work out, and there's no way to stop those drones. And so we've got to look at different strategies there. And what do? They build an aircraft carrier, and what do they tell us in our conference meeting? One of the members of the War Assets Committee or whatever starts pointing out members of Congress that this component of this aircraft carrier is made in your district. It's made. Mm-hmm. They make the missiles in yours. They make the satellites in yours.
That's the problem right there. You're nailing it. Everything's a pet project. Everything is a pet project to the detriment of U.S. spending.
And we're gonna mothball a lot of these big apparatus. And then you've got a Pentagon that has not passed an audit, 8 audits, and yet we continue to fund them. They cannot account for $500 billion, and that is a destroyer that they cannot account for right now at our Pentagon, and they have no intention of passing any audits.
I think they do. I've heard they do, and I talk to Hegseth. I talk to Pete regularly. He seems to want to get that. As Kash Patel is really cleaning house in the FBI. It feels like, remember, Pete Hegseth got 2.1 million people on the payroll to worry about right now. It's versus a couple 100,000 at the FBI. So Hegseth's got a far bigger job to do, but he seems ready, willing, and able to actually get the audit through. And again, as you know, sir, before you even attempt to audit, you want to make sure you're auditing the right things. You're finding out who's responsible for things, just so that whatever comes back isn't garbage in, garbage out. It's actually useful information. I agree with you. I think we should cut our Pentagon spending equally, if not more, than our other spending, just because it's never seems to ever go down. I mean, the world is becoming, certainly our world is and should be becoming more peaceful. I'm not sure why we have to spend $1 trillion in defense. Final thought on what do you think this thing will eventually make its way to the Senate as a passed bill?
Yeah, we're making a strategic mistake by having the calendar committee or whatever you call it is going to vote on it tonight at 1:00 in the morning so that they can bring it up on Wednesday. I think we ought to just stay till Friday. I know, some guy's going to be judging the unicorn contest of whatever county and has to get back. But dadgummit, you pay us $170,000. Maybe that's not a lot where you live, but in Knoxville, Tennessee, it is a whole heck of a lot of money. We ought to just stay here and work. We haven't been working. We don't work. Congress never works. We just sit around and wait, and we orchestrate. We go to the floor and you debate stuff, and it's all orchestrated. It's been predetermined. Everybody knows, within 99% of the votes, we know. You never walk off the floor and go, well, that one shocked me. It's all just a show.
Right.
Let's get on with it.
It's a swamp, brother. It's a swamp.
Let's do our business. And I got to go. The buzzer.
I'll let you go. You want to come back and talk to you about sometime next time? The MRA, the Members Representational Allowance, the MRA.
Allowance, MRI. Yeah, I would love to. I would love to.
Next time. Go vote, sir, and thank you for your time.
Pray for our country, and thank you for what you're doing for our country, brother. It is awesome.
And same to you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Remain. Ooh, Mad Dog, very nice choice. Ooh, looks like ominous skies, as they say. It's a live shot, right, Dog?
Yes, sir.
Live shot. I'm glad I'm down in sunny South Florida, 89 degrees and 80% humidity. On Friday, Moody's became the final credit rating agency to strip the federal government of its top-tier credit rating. To break this down for us, Birch Gold Group precious metals specialist, Mr. Philip Patrick. So, Philip, what does that credit rating drop actually mean to investors and the markets?
Look, it's an interesting one. This is the first time since 1919 that all three credit rating agencies have downgraded us. What they cited was the growing debt burden and, of course, the inability to sort of handle these debt ceiling standoffs for the last 10 years. But it's not just the national debt itself growing now at 36.2 trillion. it's also the debt service payments, right? The concern, I think, is not that the US is going to default on its debt obligations. At the end of the day, we owe money in our own currency, but it's a reflector of global investor sentiment. They're increasingly viewing us in the US as a bad investment. Like I said, shorter term, I don't think a big effect. The concern is what it does do is raise interest rates on the debt and put a squeeze on borrowing costs, which is going to be problematic for Trump and Bess in trying to close that gap with the deficit. So it's more bad news at a sort of turbulent time, but nothing dramatic.
You know, I know there's $63 higher on the gold price today, and people are really, at least the smart money on Wall Street, they're realizing that these things, is that the credit down rating, the impending BRICS conference, the Rio Reset, as we've been calling it, all these things are adding to some, at least, nervousness about the value of the dollar. Whether you think the economy is going up or down, if the value of the dollar slides and these things are pushing down the value of the dollar, the obvious response, you got to be in gold.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. And we have a litany of problems at the moment. We've got a growing debt burden. We've got debt service payments. We're trying to push through a budget, which, by the way, I agree with you. There's pros and cons, but I think short term, the pros outweigh the cons. But I think there's a realization that getting a handle on this debt and deficit is going to be a very tough task. And the more debt amassed, you said yourself, a year from now, U.S. national debt will be at 40 trillion. 12 months from then, probably 42, 45, 46. The longer that goes on, the less attractive we look, and investors are diversifying and they're looking for alternatives. And as you say, precious metals are the best place to go when you're worried about the value of currency, and it's what we're seeing.
Yeah, and hey, folks, I'll let Philip confirm this, but there's a country that would like nothing more than to see our dollar collapse and maybe even their currency take over for it. Philip, you want to say it or do you want me to say it? The country.
Can we say the C word on air?
One,
China.
2, 3, China. Yep, 100 million %. So China wants it to happen. If nothing else, it's good to hedge all bets, and the proper place would be in precious metals.
I couldn't agree more, Bolling, and you know it as well as others. You invest yourself, and we're seeing it in the growth in metals. Listen, JP Morgan are coming out saying we could see $6,000 gold, depending on what happens with trade wars and recession. So this is a climate for the yellow metal, for silver as well, and I think everyone has to have a hedge. Listen, we're rooting for President Trump, but we got to have a fiscal hedge just in case.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Philip, we really appreciate your time. Birch Gold Group is a great place to do it, folks. Order gold. You call them up. You order gold. Actual gold comes in the mail. If you want, you can do it in the IRA. What I do is I call them up. I pick up the phone. I call them. I wire the money in 3 or 4 days, depending on how much shipping and what's going on. Physical gold shows up at my front door. I sign for it. I put it in a safety deposit box. It is amazing. Philip, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks. I think the day has finally come. MSDNC, as Trump likes to say, has gone so far over the line of sanity into the completely insane world. I think it's time we all throw away our remaining hope that they may come back someday to Earth. Their coverage is no longer about politics. It's about black. It's become black versus white. Literally, just everything they do is the race card. For some reason, the talent at the network continues to try and erase decades of American progress by making blatantly racist remarks like this one from Elie Mystal.
This election has proven, that this administration has proven painfully in some ways, is that black people cannot save this country from white folks. We can't do it alone. Right? If white folks aren't going to join in, if white women aren't going to join in, if Latinos aren't going to join in, we can't do it alone.
How much black folks are going to save the country and no one else is I mean, what are you smoking, Ellie? What are you smoking? I personally have been I'm very much vocal about the crisis that's become our education system. Our universities have been radicalized, and the next generation of American, entrepreneurs, business owners, and baristas have all been brainwashed on our college campuses. Apparently people aren't mad enough about this because radical liberal idiots like the guy in this next clip continue to do their top-tier job opportunities at our nation's schools. They're the ones who are sucking it up. This next guy is named Santa Ono. He's the lone finalist for the role of president at the University of Florida. Now, listen to how he sees the world, specifically the United States.
Systemic racism is embedded in every corner of any institution. And so the only way to solve it is to have everyone doing their part. First, being truthful about the fact that there is racism. But second, actually really looking at themselves inside and asking what parts of me are racist and what steps do I have to take to move beyond that. Everybody has implicit bias, and an institution can only change if everyone takes ownership of and responsibility for changing this place.
I can't believe our institutions of higher learning are being run by people like that. I mean, generally, he's a white guy, he's Asian, a white guy who's saying there's institutional racism. Didn't that not be the case? Aren't we over this? Aren't we back to let's do merit instead of race and color of people's skins to promote people? How about laying people into colleges who deserve it based on their test scores and their grades in middle school and high school, and instead of what color they're from? I saw a report at Harvard, something like 50% of the people who apply that are black at Harvard at the higher echelon of the test scores get in, when something like 12% of white people? I mean, it's just incredible. Bernie Sanders may have forgotten to take his medicine because this time he accidentally said something truthful.
Could we not also say, if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear...
Fair enough. That is, yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
Fair enough. Interesting. By the way, there was a poll that just came out that said who's the face of the Democrat Party. AOC won resoundingly. She was like 26%. And the next highest was Bernie Sanders, somewhere around 10. And then Jasmine Crockett came in at 8%. So you got AOC and Bernie, but Bernie's making a little bit of sense there. And he's got the young people's vote. They like him, Bernie bros. Donald Trump is calling for an investigation into Kamala's seemingly endless campaign and the funding from Hollywood. Massive numbers, $1.5 billion in just a couple of months, folks. Let's be real. It makes total sense for Trump to want to see a paper trail, doesn't it? I would too. Kamala buried and burned so much money during her failed White House bid, yet there was seemingly never much of a cash struggle from her campaign. It's a reasonable question and request from Trump. That's all I'm saying. Of course, if you ask Jake Tapper, Trump's ask is completely ridiculous. Here's Jakey mocking President Trump yet again.
Our politics lead, it's an interesting thing amidst all these important developments going on with deportations and tariffs. President Trump is also simultaneously trying to pick fights with A-list celebrities who have historically backed Democrats, such as Beyonce, Oprah, the boss, Bruce Springsteen, to name a few. Mr. Trump claiming on Truth Social that the Kamala Harris campaign paid Beyonce $11 million for her endorsement.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you worried about, Jake? I mean, you've already proven yourself to be a complete fraud, false, liar, non-journalist by writing a book about the big cover-up that you yourself perpetrated, Jake freaking Tapper, whose book comes out today, probably going to the New York Times bestseller list, whatever. A jump ruled that Trump can deport Venezuelans who are allowed into this country by El Joe, whether they're happy about it or not. Even CNN knows this ruling is a win for Team Trump. Listen how they broke the news.
The Supreme Court will allow the White House to move forward, ending deportation protections for Venezuelans.
Now, this is just the latest in a series of challenges to Trump's immigration agenda. Many of these have actually reached the Supreme Court in an expedited manner. So this is a small W win for the administration. So the administration can start to proceed with rolling back some of these protections. We should also expect that litigation over this question will continue.
It must be so difficult for them to report that news, isn't it? We'll be back 2.5 minutes. Look at that shot. It's a live shot of Afton, Wyoming. You know,
yes, sir.
Never been to Afton, Wyoming. There's a place called Four Corners, and Wyoming is one of the four corners where all four states come together, and you can actually step on all four states as you step from one corner to the next at that Four Corners area. I've never been to Afton. They have a lot of steers there. Steers and what? And Cheers. Steers and Cheers, because the bars are so fun in Afton, Wyoming. Is that right, Mad Dog?
And some cheerleaders.
And cheerleaders. I'm not going there. All right, folks, another Democrat just called us all stupid for not voting for Kamala Harris in November. This time it was former Senator and known lunatic, known nothing at all, Claire McCaskill. Remember this lady? Listen.
They're all going to know about higher prices. They're all going to know that they're spending more at Walmart than they spent this time last year. They're all going to know that their 401ks are down. They're all going to know that, and there's nothing Trump can do about that. And yes, the Wall Street Journal may say America is smart enough to know better. I will tell the Wall Street Journal this. America, I believe, clearly was not smart enough to keep this guy from the White House.
Someone needs to tell Claire McCaskill the prices aren't going up, they're going down. They're going down drastically under Trump, and they'll never go up the way they went under Bidenomics and Biden. And by the way, what will make the market go up? Well, when Trump's tax cuts finally get voted in, if they do, assuming they will. We have the House, we have the Senate. We should be able to get those tax cuts through. That'll make the market soar. Looks like Canada's new leadership is taking a much less polite approach to getting their message across, which is always a liberal message, folks. If you think Canada was going to change, think again. Here's their new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, bluntly threatening companies that fail to comply with the damn Canada Green New Climate Agenda deal.
The society is putting tremendous value on achieving net zero. So the companies and those who invest in them and lend to them, who are part of the solution, will be rewarded. But those who are lagging behind and are still part of the problem will be punished.
Well, so Canada is going to be Canada. I don't even know if we want them to be the 51st state. I think we just let them continue to flounder as some liberal wasteland north of us. New York Times continues to side with the radicals in the pointless media war about Trump. Michael Crowley, a New York Times reporter, went on MSDNC and made some bold claims about Trump's relationship with one Vladimir Putin.
We know that publicly it's a relationship where Trump seems to be the suitor who flatters Vladimir Putin, who courts him and craves his respect. I mean, this goes all the way back to, I was revisiting recently when Trump owned the Miss Universe beauty pageant and brought it to Moscow in 2015, I believe, maybe a year or two earlier than that. And he was tweeting at the time, I'm going to be going to Moscow with my beauty pageant. Do you think Vladimir Putin will meet with me? Do you think he will be my best friend? I mean, literally, he said, do you think he will be my best friend? That kind of set the tone for this relationship where Trump is the supplicant.
Do that guy look like a doofus? I don't know what he writes. Can you imagine they just sit around and like go back and like, what has Trump said or done? How can we mess with Trump? What can we possibly do? Oh yeah, I get paid by the New York Times. By the way, someone on the Rumble chat is pointing out Bolling. I'm not sure Wyoming's one of the four corner states, and I might not be. I could have been completely wrong about that. Well, Rumble, maybe you're right. Let me know. Hit me up. Social media, hit me up in the chats. I'm all for it. Before we go, I just want to remind you, I got the show and podcast over on digital. You got to go there. You have to subscribe because we are just taking apart the Diddy trial day by day. The salacious details I cannot begin to explain to you. We're going through the testimony. We're showing you things and just shockingly said. Do you know Barack Obama's name came up today in the form of a pill? Diddy was taking an ecstasy pill with the figure of Barack Obama's face on the pill. That's what they were doing before these freak-offs. And of course, we've talked about the 1,000 bottles of oil. We just found out that Diddy was preparing a freak. He had a hotel room stocked with the baby oil, ready to do a freak-off, and the feds busted him. They raided his home. So got to go over there, subscribe now. Appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button after, and we're all over it. Really looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow. And in just a couple of seconds, Mr. Stephen K. Bannon. He tells me it's Kevin. I think it's Kevin. Stephen K. Bannon taking over. War Room next.
Today, it's the one big, beautiful bill that was going to fix
pretty much everything. The largest tax cut in American history, protection for Medicaid, border security, air traffic control, and even an end to wokeness. All of that straight out of the White House's own description of what the bill can do, by the way. The problem is, it's hard to argue that any of that would happen if the bill doesn't get passed. And the deeply divided Republican caucus is still making changes to it as we speak. It is in danger, which is probably why Trump himself marched to Capitol Hill today with a couple of warnings to the Republicans standing in his way. Number one, to the moderates who are demanding state and local tax deductions, SALT. He said, quote, let it go. He even called out New York Congressman Mike Lawler by name, saying, quote, end it, Mike, just end it. And order number two went to the Freedom Caucus. Don't F around with Medicaid, he said. Bring us to the Hill today. What did Donald Trump get out of this meeting?
Well, it's clear, Katie, that he hoped that he was going to be able to close the deal today, that he was going to be able to walk into that room and look at the dispirited factions of the Republican caucus and tell them the time for fighting is over. Get out of your corners, come to the floor and vote yes. And while there is some signs that he may have moved the needle more in that direction, he has by no means closed the deal. There are a number of House Republicans, both on the conservative side of the ledger and those more moderate Republicans from blue states that are worried about the state and local tax deduction, who are still no votes and still want to see demonstrable changes in this bill before they're ready to vote yes. This despite Trump in that meeting specifically